This is Viewpoint.
Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Doug Petcash. Good things come to those who wait. Fans of Boise author Alan Heathcock have waited a decade for his second book to come out, but they don't have to wait much longer. Heathcock's first novel, titled 40, hit store shelves and online bookstores Tuesday, August 2nd. It's a sweeping, near-future dystopian epic of biblical proportions involving war, politics, religious fanaticism, natural disasters, and a mysterious set of wings that appear on the main character. And 40 appears to be a good thing worth waiting for, according to a couple early reviews. Vanity Fair featured it as a freshest new fiction selection, and a review on Booklist says Heathcock's first novel beautifully captures the seriousness of the questions posed in sparkling prose. Dystopian fans will relish this compelling lyrical tale. In just a minute, I'll talk with Alan Heathcock about the new book and the writing process, just like I did back in 2011, not long after his critically acclaimed first book, Volt, was released.
You know, it's thrilling. It's like seeing like one of your kids do something extraordinary.
For author Alan Heathcock, it's thrilling to see his new book, his first book, prominently displayed in a bookstore. And this child of his, named Volt, is doing very well.
Sales are great. The book just came out and we're already on our second printing of the book.
That's 8,500 copies, 8,500 reasons Heathcock is enjoying this overnight success that's 12 years in the making.
It's a long time coming to have things happen so quickly now.
12 years from idea to book launch. The launch happened 3 weeks ago, a packed house at the Linen Building in Boise.
It's a tremendous feeling. You feel like you're fully embraced by a community.
Now readers are getting to meet the people who populate the small fictional community of Crafton, USA. It's the setting for all 8 short stories that make up Volt. In these pages live the characters Heathcock describes as tough people facing tough times, making tough decisions.
The truth of the humanity is that it's not easy, and sometimes the answers are scarier than the questions.
Now, 11 years later, Heathcock has woven a story surrounding Mazzie Goodwin in his new novel, 40. In the synopsis, she's described as a young soldier who wakes up in a bomb crater and inexplicably has wings emerged from her back. She flies out of the crater, very confused, to find her entire platoon killed in a bomb strike, and later finds America has devolved into a civil war between the U.S. government and the Nove Terre, a mysterious cult-like pseudo-religious faction headed by a mysterious leader named Joe Sam. As I mentioned, you'll be able to get a copy on August 2nd. On that day, Alan is holding a book launch and signing event at 7 p.m. at Trika in Boise. The address is on your screen. The event is also a benefit for Radio Boise. Books will also be available at Rediscovered Books, Barnes & Noble, and any online bookseller. And now I'm pleased to welcome in my guest, author of the new novel, Alan Heathcock. Alan, congratulations. And right now, this is the only copy of the book that is available. It's your copy.
Right? That's right. I have a box of them at home, and Rediscovered got all of their big number of boxes. I'm going to go sign a whole bunch of books this afternoon and awesome. Be ready for the second for people to pick them up and then be ready.
How does it feel to get it out after the years of writing and the process?
Oh my gosh, I can hardly believe it. It's been a slog. Not only taking a long time to write it, but then working through a pandemic when the publishing industry kind of greatly slowed down, which affected
sure.
the release of the book. So it feels like, I've been through the valley and over the hills to finally get this close to the book coming out. It feels fantastic.
How much do you worry as an artist about how the book will be received?
Oh, I mean, you want it to do well. I only worry about it in terms of, there are certain gatekeepers, and if they say nice things about it, then other people will buy it. And so you worry a little bit about that sort of thing. So I know I have New York Times is going to review it, and if they give it the thumbs up, then very good things happen for you. But otherwise, I took a long time to write the book that I wanted to write exactly the way I wanted to write it. And so some people will dig that and other people won't dig that. I don't sweat that too much. I'm very confident that the book that I wrote is exactly what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. So.
You know, in that interview that we showed, and also showing how much you and I have changed
Gosh.
over the last decade, about the characters in Volt, you said, the truth of humanity is that it's not easy, and sometimes the answers are scarier than the questions. Is that an underwriting theme in 40 as well?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think even more so. I mean, when Volt was coming out, we're 2011, so I've been writing that through just the aughts. And what was happening in the world around me, and things that I saw were happening to people that I knew. But now as a nation, as a world, we can see how much has changed. I mean, it's drastic. The things that maybe we couldn't have even imagined back in 2011, whether it be a pandemic or the political turmoil and attacks on the Capitol. There's been a lot of things that have happened, and I don't think we can even imagine. So, yeah, it's absolutely, I mean, we can go back through human history too, but we'll just stick with these two books of that. That's just the truth. Life can be hard.
And why tackle the topics that you took on? I mean, so much, that I described earlier, but, war, civil war, religious fanaticism, natural disasters. Why tackle that?
Well, I think it's all one thing, and it's all just this underlying anxiety that I feel, but that I also kind of, you start getting a reverberation that this is not just me, that this is a part of the zeitgeist of feeling that's out there in the air. And I use writing to make sense of the things that scare and confound me. It's just how I process it. And so those are the things that are kind of included in the moment. I started writing back in 2012, and even more so now today. It's held up as relevant. I think these are conversations, these are hard conversations that we have to face and that we have to have. I don't want the things in the book to be true. So I'm slightly ahead of where we are. I don't want them to be true. I'm not a politician. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a very wealthy man. What I can do is I can write a book that hopefully starts conversations. And sometimes that doesn't feel like a whole lot, but that's what I have to offer.
That being said, what do you hope readers take away from it? Is it just to ponder those questions, but also to go on quite a epic journey?
Yeah, so I mean, I hope they just enjoy the journey of reading the story, and that it does provoke questions, some that maybe have answers, some that are bigger existential questions about, what are we doing here? We were born in, I think there's always a question with me, we were just born into the world, and there's so much that's set in the world from the time we're born. And all of these systems that are just a part of our existence. And, kind of looking forward, what do we do within? Do we alter these systems, change these systems? I know we rail against the systems all the time, and yet poverty persists. War and violence persist. Inequities continue to persist. And how do we become better? We have to do it better. Yeah. We have something better inside us. I'm sure of it. And I just want the book to provoke conversations. Hopefully people get together in small groups and have those conversations.
You're an artist doing pretty much a solitary craft. So I wanted to ask you, though, about publicity. Do you like that part of the process, like what you're doing right now?
Well, I like doing it with you because I know you and I kind of know what I'm going to get, and we've done it before. It could become taxing a little bit. I mean, I think I can go out and do this, but fundamentally I'm an introvert, and I'm probably, my most natural state is me at home daydreaming and writing and taking walks and things like that. So I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone.
Speaking of doing publicity, a friend of yours took a little, and you took a little trip into the foothills recently. I have some photos to show that you took up in the foothills.
I
And
know
this
what you're going to
is,
show.
yeah, these are really great pictures, by the way. But you wearing the Mazzy wings, I'm curious if you ran across any hikers or bikers up there while you were doing the photo shoot, and what kind of reaction you got?
There were a few. That was an incredibly hot day, which luckily you can't tell with me wearing a jacket and wings and hat, but it was hot out there. And I would say a special shout out to J. Reuben Eppelman, who's the photographer behind this. He did a great job. But yeah, there were some confused people. I think it was so hot they may have thought they were having heat stroke or something, seeing some sort of strange heat-induced mirage of an angelic figure out there in the foothills. But
There are great photos.
Thank you.
And I do want to mention again that you're going to be having the book signing coming up. And after the break, though, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and talk more about the storyline here and also the writing process with Boise author Alan Heathcock, the author of the new book, the new novel, 40. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Viewpoint. Today I'm talking with Boise author Alan Heathcock about his new novel, 40. And now we're going to focus on his writing process. Al, I'm curious, how did the idea for Mazzy Goodwin, the wings, and the whole concept come to you? How did it all get started?
It comes slowly in pieces. I start kind of collecting up things that I find interesting, little scraps of things. So, you know, I had thought about a person with wings being brought down into this world and how people would react, and I thought that was kind of interesting to think about, all the connotations that would come with it and what would be lauded on top of just having wings, let alone the type of person you are. And then I have, you know, my journals as I'm writing about what's going on in the world every day. And slowly I start kind of going like, maybe this is all one thing. And I start seeing if there's a structure of construction there, something that I can push into, and then kind of like, you know, why is this coming from my subconscious and pushing itself forward and kind of figuring out what the content is for me to dig into. And eventually I hit like a critical mass, and I know that I have a book, and I start writing.
How do you write? Do you write in like frenetic, creative, you know, bursts, or is it more of a, you know, kind of a slow burn for you?
Well, in all, I would say I'm more the tortoise than the hare. Definitely, we could say that with the 10 years it took me to write the book. Though on a daily basis, I would say that there's a fair amount of me trying to take a manageable thing, something that I know I'm going to write that day. I don't never work for a word count or a more qualitative than quantitative. And then I do a lot of weird things, watch scenes from movies, look at other books, take walks, do whatever I had to kind of provoke the thing that I need to write. And then I write in a frenetic burst to try to get it down as potently as I can.
Do you prefer to write in a solitary setting? Or, you know, could you ever write in public?
Yeah, I have to. Sometimes I get lonesome, but I kind of write the way maybe a method actor would work, where I become the character and I get my imagination all the way down into it. And I talk to myself and I kind of pace around, and I'm not completely aware of what I do, but I've been told by people who've worked in close proximity to me, it's not always pretty. So I think I'd scare people in coffee shops and maybe be asked to leave if I did. So I just stick at home where I can not be self-conscious and do my thing.
And I have a photo of you from a few years ago when you had your writing camper.
Yeah, the Voltmobile.
I believe we have that picture. There you are in the camper. Why did that work for you? Was that also just that idea of being able to have your own space?
Yeah, that was great because I can have an entire designated space, and like I decoupaged pages of my favorite books on the walls of the camper, and just have a space I go to that I know like I'm entering the spot where I can do all my weirdness and sink down into it, and I'm not going to bother anybody. And it felt wonderful. I love the Voltmobile. I sold it a few years ago. I missed the Voltmobile tremendously.
You have to get another one.
I do need to get another one.
Can I ask, or will you divulge why the title is 40?
Yeah, sure. 40 is kind of a sacred number across a number of the world religions, and I think specifically there's a couple allusions from the Christian Bible. There'd be 40 days and 40 nights of rain, or
40 days in the desert.
Yeah, 40 days in the desert. Yeah, there's lots of 40s in the Christian Bible, and Psalms 40 is one of my favorite psalms, and speaks basically into waiting patiently for a song to come from your mouth and to sing a new song into the world, and that kind of speaks to the way I think about myself as an artist. And so, I kind of think of the book, the publishers always gets tricky, like, is it science fiction, is it fantasy, is it literary fiction? I don't think in those ways, but I kind of think of it as a secular Bible story that's set in America. It's just the way I've always thought of it. You think of Bible stories, they have politics and war, and there's magical realism, bushes catching on fire, and seas being parted, and great floods, and whales eating guys. And I've always loved Bible stories, and so I kind of think of it as an American Bible story, a secular Bible story, American mythology, something like that.
Did the pandemic impact the writing? You mentioned it before about how it kind of slowed the process, but did it impact the storytelling, maybe is a better way to ask the question, in the sense of this is near future America.
Yeah.
So did you then somehow have to incorporate the pandemic into it?
Yeah, I was actually revising the book during the pandemic, and so I had to go back in and just in small spots here and there mention that.
So just kind of like a referring back to this thing that happened.
If I'm saying this is set in 2040, that this would be a part of the historical record that we had been through a pandemic. And so I had to reference it a few times, and just in the writing. And then just working during the pandemic for a while, it was great because I had a lot of work to do, and I don't have to worry about socializing. I can just do my thing. And after a while, I got a little bit like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, and it started to feel a little bit weird, probably like a lot of people were during the pandemic. I'm like, get me out of here.
Right, a little stir crazy for sure. And just in about the minute we have left, curious about how the business side of it and, working with the publisher, how is that? Getting it all wrapped up, put together? And
it's been great. I'm very fortunate to work with MCD from Farrar, Straus and Giroux, and I love my editor, Sean McDonald, and they have a fantastic team. Everything from making sure the book is ready for the world from an editorial, critical standpoint to the cover design. Rodrigo Corral, designer, just knocked it out of the park. So I've been in very good hands, and I'm deeply grateful for having the publisher help me put this book out in the world. Alan Heathcock, congratulations on the new novel. Coming out August 2nd.
can show you once again, Alan is having a book launch and signing. It is Tuesday, August 2nd, 7 p.m. at Trica. That's on Eastman Street in Boise. And you can also get your copy at Rediscovered Books, Barnes & Noble, and any online bookseller on August 2nd is the official release and everything. Alan, again, congratulations. And can't wait to see how everything goes. And
Thanks for
early
having
reviews.
Thanks for having me. Let's not do it every 10 years. Let's see if I can finish a book quicker next time.
Yeah, okay.
It's great to see you.
It's very great to see you too. Thank you so much for your time. And when we come back, we're going to have a little bit of history in our area. Stay tuned. Not enough soap in all of Ada County. Those were some of the words used to describe a certain section of the city of Boise back in the early 1900s. You might know it now as the Collister neighborhood, a pretty nice little community these days tucked into the base of the Boise foothills, just on the outskirts of Boise's historic North End. From the 1970s and 80s style homes to modern, sleek, single-family homes, Collister has become one of the most sought-after neighborhoods in Boise. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, it was once considered uninhabitable. Here's News Channel 7's Brian Holmes.
You've probably heard of Cynthia Mann, certainly one of Boise's well-known residents.
But how about ordinary folks?
On the side of the school named after her, once lived Ada County's not so well-known.
The landscape was just littered with all these mysterious things.
Which is why Boise State Professor Emeritus Dr. Todd Shallett,
But also things that just made me scratch my head.
went digging. This stretch of land, now known as the Collister neighborhood, had a hidden history.
This place turned out to be really interesting because when I started researching it, I couldn't find it on the map. I couldn't find out where it was. It was a conundrum.
But it was a quote from a health inspector that caught Shallett's attention.
There wasn't enough soap in all of Ada County to cleanse the stench and the horrors of this poor farm. And that's what the state inspectors found when they stumbled upon it in 1915.
A poor farm. It seems before Idaho was even a state, it had a contract to care for its indigent people. So in 1883, for $5,000, Ada County bought this 160 acres along the Union Canal from John Haley. Yeah, that John Haley. The one who raised sheep and now has a town named after him? Well, for decades, Ada's poor farm was a model for social progress. The inmates, as they were called, would work the land and grow hay.
Originally, the idea was these are poor people who would just need like a temporary place to stay. But what it evolved into over the years was basically a home for indigent older people, mostly men, and mostly people that were way too crippled up to work.
Or ranged from the feeble-minded to the stark raving mad, which prompted that visit from that inspector.
Who in 1915 was just shocked to come out here and see the conditions of this poor farm.
He deemed the farm uninhabitable and soon shut it down. Urban sprawl soon spread over the land, almost concealing the story of Ada County's poor farm completely. Why do you think nobody knows about it?
The ranch?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's the most interesting question.
Now you know a little bit about it. Dr. Shallett says another interesting question is the same now as it was early in our area's development. What do we do with our indigent and who should be responsible for that? For more forgotten stories of the Treasure Valley, like about a graveyard, a gold mine, and a prison camp, to name a few, you can check out Dr. Shallett's book, The Other Idahoans. And that is all of our time for this week's Viewpoint. But before I go, just one more reminder about the book launch for Alan Heathcock's new novel, 40. It's coming up this Tuesday, 7 p.m. at Trica on Eastman Street in Boise. It's also a benefit for Radio Boise as well. Also, the book will be available at Rediscovered Books, Barnes & Noble, and online booksellers. And there is the cover once again. Alan Heathcock, author of Volt as well. His collection of short stories from back in 2011 is out, and you can find that as well. And that is all of our time for this week's Viewpoint. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you tonight for the Sunday news at 5 and 10, and then right back here next Sunday morning for another Viewpoint.